Hey friends. Um, so today I had sort of a follow-up insight into something that I talked about in my post yesterday. It just kind of came out of me in the post yesterday because it was a component of my experience on the teacher training, which I spoke about yesterday, and which there was just a lot of really beautiful realization in there. But I mentioned somewhere in the middle, towards the end of that post, that there was this moment when, for a little context, I was on this teacher training session, and the teacher working with me had played the Mozart Sonata, opening to the Sonata number 13, B flat major, and she asked me how it felt, and I said, well, it feels a little stiff. I felt a little stiff and brittle, which is something that I'm familiar. It's a feeling I'm very familiar with at the piano. It's when I'm disconnected from the heart of the music and I'm going into my good performance mode. And so I said that that's how I had felt, and I could very kind of tangibly describe that experience. And she worked with me, and one of the things she had me do was dance around and sing the song, sing the piece, and let my body sort of feel the flow of each phrase and just completely live the music in my whole body. So I did that, and the effect was profound. It completely opened me up, so that when I then sat down to play again, I had the music sort of in my body. It was coursing through me, and it came out into the piano really beautifully. And then, in my post yesterday, I then talked about Madeline's feedback, which was, that's amazing. And then there's still work left to be done on the kind of how do you take that embodied, heart-centered embrace of the music and most freely transmit it into the piano, because that's when a number of technical considerations become relevant. Anyway, as a brief recap of yesterday, but out of all that, at the end of the session, towards the end of the lesson, I said something like, more silliness at the piano. Yes, that's the mantra. More silliness at the piano. In other words, that I was referring to my own kind of dancing around and embodying the music, because it was making me laugh and making everybody else on the call laugh. So I called it silliness. And then in the feedback, Madeline said something about, yes, silliness is good, but don't forget that this is also profound. And I registered that, and I understood it in the moment, but then in reflecting on it, this really started to kind of sink in with me and hit home over the course of yesterday afternoon, evening, into today. I just noticed myself reflecting on this, because there's something really incredibly important in that statement. When I think about what it felt like to actually let my body feel a Mozart sonata, there's something going on that the reason why it feels silly is because I'm being expressive in a way that's totally uninhibited, and the result is laughter. The result is levity and a kind of joy. And then I started thinking about when I watch Annalise dance ballet, because she will stand in the living room and dance ballet with a look on her face like you've seen on the prima ballerina in the New York Ballet Company, a look of focus and attention. And she's dancing ballet, and she's totally untrained. She's not quite 4 years old. So it's easy and it's tempting to say to call it silly, to laugh at it and call it silly. But there's something that this is where this kind of, the distinction that Madeline was making really has hit home to me, because is it, that tendency to call that silliness is part of a kind of cultural tendency in our culture to infantilize open-heartedness, as though only an innocent or a child could be so naive as to greet the world with an open heart. And so naive as to truly feel each impulse of music in their body. And when I realized that this is a moniker that I put on it. I'm the one who said silly, so I'm diagnosing my own kind of cultural programming here. But what I realized is, oh my God, what a travesty it would be to leave that alone. I'm so glad that Madeline said something, because what a disservice it would be to even in the case of myself yesterday dancing around to Mozart, what a disservice it would be to call that silliness when, I'm an untrained ballet dancer. I've never trained, not since I was a young child have I danced ballet, and I didn't do it for very long at the time. So again, my awkwardness is what makes it makes it feel funny, as opposed to if you saw a genuinely highly trained master ballet dancer dancing an improvised routine to a Mozart sonata. It's unlikely that we would laugh at that, or if we did laugh at it, we would laugh at the creative choices that person was making, because it would come from their intention. They might do something that would be funny, but we wouldn't be laughing at the fact that they're dancing to the music, because we would be seeing a master perform. But watching Annalise, I'm so aware now, and this is really hitting home in the last 24 hours. I'm really so aware of how perceiving that behavior and that wholehearted engagement as silliness is such a massive disservice, because she's it's precisely the attitude that could cause her incredible pain and could cause her to close down if, when she gets a little older, or if at some point she becomes aware that in her open-heartedness, in her vulnerable expression, she's being evaluated or being dismissed as silly, And the irony is that open-heartedness that she's displaying, and that I'm also displaying when I dance a Mozart sonata, that's what's really happening. That is the prerequisite, that open-hearted embrace, that ease, and that allowing, beauty to course through me, is proto-mastery. It's the bedrock of creative mastery. It's the thing out of which all development has to grow. It's the feeling that a child has when they hear someone playing piano and they're like, I have to do that. I want to touch that instrument and make those sounds. You know, I've had that experience myself. It's any moment of inspiration where an untrained or a less trained artist witnesses a creative act and feels inspired and feels drawn towards it. You know, Annalise is doing her best. That's the look on her face. She's doing her best to emulate and embody the beauty that she's seen in the world. She's seen dancers, you know, she's been on YouTube and she's watched the Royal Ballet and she's watched the major ballet companies all over the world dance huge ballet pieces. That's what she's doing. She's bringing that into her body and her soul and her life. It's not silly. It's profound. And that doesn't mean we have to clamp down on the levity that moments like that create. To watch a grown man dance around the room singing a Mozart sonata, we can still laugh at it. We should laugh at it. That's part of the opening that's taking place. But I'm really taking issue with my own characterization of this as silliness. There's something so much more meaningful happening. What I brought into the keyboard, what I brought into the sonata afterwards was not silliness. It was not the product of having been silly for a while. It was a product of having allowed myself to live the music more fully. Sitting on stage, we don't, when someone sits on stage and plays the Mozart Sonata beautifully and carves every contour of every phrase with their emotion and their body and all their perceptions, there's nothing silly about it. It's the heart of life. So that came through this morning pretty powerfully. Thanks for watching, folks. Love you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.